It's important to consider the overall look of your resume when you're constructing it because you can have some really great content on the page, but if it doesn't look good, it's just really not going to get read as well. So let's think about that together. Make sure that your resume is clean looking, organized, and easy to read, because if it is not those things, it's not going to get read very well, because really they're only going to spend half a minute looking at this thing max. So we really need to make sure that it's easy to read. And the other very important thing is that it's one page, just one, not one page and a little, just one page. It's really important to consider spacing on the page. If things are crowded, it's going to be really hard to read. So try to keep your margins consistent. 1 inch all the way around is ideal, but you can bring it down to 7 or 8/10 of an inch if needed, but I wouldn't go smaller than that. Spacing between the sections is really important. Put a full space before each heading. Put a space between each job listing. That one doesn't have to be quite as big as the full space before the headings, but we do need a space there. And make sure you're not putting two spaces together anywhere on the resume. There's really almost never a reason you need to do that. Headings are crucial. It's really important to have clear and obvious section headings on a resume. They help the reader navigate the page and find the information they're looking for. I cannot think of any reason why a heading would not be in all caps and bolded. It will set it off from the rest of the text, which is what we want. Try to keep the section titles to 1 or 2 words if you can as well, because that makes it easy to read. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of text on the page. That's just the nature of resumes, but we don't want it to look cluttered. So remove any information that you don't really need to have on the page. For instance, if you're listing the street addresses of your employers for those jobs, just take that off. All we need is the city and state or province. We don't need the street address. They can find that. They can Google that if they want to. Anchor the text, and by that I mean nothing should be floating around the page that's not anchored to one of the margins or centered or anchored underneath a heading, indented underneath a heading. If we have floating text, it's just harder for the eye to read. Make sure you're watching your font sizes. The heading should be 1 or 2 points bigger than the rest of your content, and your name should be really large. Other than that, keep everything the same. The more you vary the font size, the harder it is to read. One thing I see students doing a lot is overusing bolding and italics and underline. You want to be really strategic with this. Remember that anytime you bold something, you are emphasizing it. So make sure what you have bolded is what you want to draw the reader's eye to. You want your headings bolded, your name, your job titles, and your degree. Other than that, I wouldn't use bold anywhere else, like your dates. They don't need to be bolded. For italics, use it sparingly, maybe your company names if you need to set them off from the rest of the text a little bit. Other than that, I wouldn't use it too much. Underlining, just don't underline anything. We don't need to underline anything. Then it starts to look like the notes you took in history class, which is not what we want. Check your consistency. Make sure that you are formatting things in a consistent manner. If you've got multiple listings that are the same, like your jobs or like your activities that you're listing, make sure they're formatted exactly the same way. Make sure you're using the same dash or hyphen for all of your dates. Make sure you're using your bold and italics consistently. Basically, anytime you're listing things more than once, they need to be consistently formatted. Let's take a look specifically at how the experience section should be formatted, because there's a lot of formatting that goes into this. Now here I've given you 2 examples of formatting. In the first one, we've got the job title with a colon followed by the company name. Second one, we've got the company name and location on the next line. That might depend on how long your job title is, how long the organization name is, because we're going to put the dates on the same line. As you see over here, they are justified right. They are on the right margin. So if not all of your information can fit on the one line, then you think about putting it on the next line. And that's why I have these italicized, to let them stand out a little more. The other thing to consider is your bullet points. Make sure you're not using flashy ones. This example has a circle. These have square ones. I wouldn't go too far from that. We really don't want the employer distracted from your good information by a fancy schmancy bullet. It's not what we want. So here I have for you, to show you the importance of good formatting, I have one of my templates that I give out to students, and I basically removed all of the good formatting. So this is a bad example. This is not what we want your resume to look like. It has bunched up information. It has headings that don't stand out. It has floating text. So this is what I mean by floating text here. It's not anchored to anything. It's just kind of hanging out here. It's not consistent. We've got spaces some places and not others. This is a problem. Let me show you what it looks like after I format it in what I think is an ideal way. This one looks great. And what you need to understand is that I changed 0 words. I removed no words. I added no words. I just changed the formatting. And now it's clean. It's easy to read. You can see that things are anchored here along the right margin. Everything else is anchored over here right underneath a heading, indented and underneath a heading. Headings are clear. They're all caps. They're bolded. They even have a line going all the way across, which I didn't use underline for. I used a border. This is just neat, clean, and easy to read. Let's put them side by side. Now, which person would you want to hire here? I think definitely the person on the right. And the sad thing is that it's the exact same information. It's just so much easier to read. And that's why great formatting is really important.